his wife's going to cook him some supper. So, but welcome everyone. We'd like to welcome our sheriffs for sheriff's office providing our security this evening, and also please have in mind those children in Florida and that situation. We would certainly appreciate that. I have a few more comments, but at this time, our invocation will be led by Vice Chair Jeanette Cancel, and then you're going to see Mr. Charlie Barber, who is 5 years of age, and he's going to lead us in our pledge. So if you'd please stand at this time. Jeanette Cancel, and then Larry Lancaster. Okay. A little technical difficulty. Okay.
Would you bow with me, please? Heavenly Father, we come to conduct our business this evening for the county of Cumberland. We ask for prayer and for solitude and for peace for all of the grieving citizens in another county south of us who lost friends, citizens, relatives, and students. We ask that you keep us ever faithful to the principles that you have taught us, and remind us that as long as we keep the faith, we will be better people. Thank you so much for all that you have done for us. Amen. Amen. Charlie Barber is coming forward. He is the son of retired General and Dr. Patrice Barber. I know. She is a dentist, practicing dentist, and a former service woman herself. He is the grandson of Mrs. Gwendolyn Davis, who I call Dr. Mama. His big brother is 9 years old, and Patrick, and he came to us 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago. So this is a family affair. Charlie's hobbies include ABC Mouse, playing Jeopardy with the family, and playing all sports. Charlie, I turn it over to you.
May we please have a right hand on our heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Charlie, you know what to do.
Oh my goodness gracious.
Good job, Charlie. All right, Charlie.
Fantastic, Charlie.
Dad, you know I told you, usually they get, parents take them out $20 a Dairy Queen after they do that.
I didn't ask for two, so I just left it alone. Wait a minute. Marshall.
You gotta get the signature up.
Oh, yeah. Hey, Charlie.
Okay.
More?
Thank you. Thank you, Charlie, very much. We appreciate you.
Also, we have another superstar in here tonight. Jalen, how about standing up just a minute? This is Jalen Campbell. He's a 12th grader. He's a senior. We're envious of his hair. He's from Cumberland Polytechnical High School. He is a senior, and he will graduate with 56 college credits this year. You the man. You the man. Thank you, son.
I don't think I graduated with that many.
Michael Bush didn't have that many credits when he graduated from East Carolina, so thank you. Thank you.
Seemed like an awful lot.
Yeah. Also, we're privileged this afternoon to have the Executive Director, Mr. Phil Harris. March is Red Cross Month. And Phil, we thank you for what you do. And do you have something you'd like to say about Red Cross?
No, we're celebrating our 101st year in Cumberland County, so we want you to be on the lookout for us. March is Red Cross Month. We actually got it kicked off earlier today. We made 41 homes safer by installing smoke alarms. People think of the Red Cross as disaster, and we had our Hurricane Matthew, but we had 155 families that had a single-family home fire. So we're out trying to make people safer. We'll be teaching Scrubby Bear, which is a hand washing, prevent flu, and that's the biggest cause of absenteeism in schools. And we're teaching hands-only CPR. So your Red Cross is here for 101 years and going to make it 101 more. So thank you for recognizing March as Red Cross Month. And we're active in our community. We thank our volunteers for making it happen. So
and thank you for what you do. Public comment period. Call on our County Manager, Amy Cannon, to read the public comment policy.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, the public comment period shall last no longer than 15 minutes. Time may not be extended. Each speaker will have a maximum of 3 minutes to make their remarks. Speakers will address the board from the lectern, and please begin your remarks by stating your name and address. Thank you.
Madam Clerk, any speakers?
There are 3 speakers this evening. Our first speaker is Mr. Tom Clark.
Mr. Clark. Welcome, my friend.
Welcome back.
First of all, I'd just like to thank the commissioners for listening to me month after month. But my name's Tom Clark. I live at 4643 Goldsboro Road in Wade, North Carolina. What I'm here about tonight, as you know, you've been seeing it all in the news and the paper, but our state's under siege from Gen X to drilling off the coast to Atlantic Coast Pipeline. And that's what I'm here to talk about tonight. On February 3rd, Governor Cooper held a press conference to say no to offshore drilling, but yet at the same time, he came out in support of the Atlantic Coast Pipeline. We, the families and landowners, have been saying the same things about the Atlantic Coast Pipeline, but yet Governor Cooper has yet given his blessings for the unwanted and dangerous pipeline. We just don't understand how he can be in support of one and against the other. Could it be the $57.8 billion slush fund he acquired from Dominion, or could it be from advice he got from his newly appointed energy lobbyist turned legislative director, Mr. Lilly, that worked for Dominion? We, the people of eastern North Carolina, just can't understand his stance. It surely looks like a pay-to-play scheme to me. Governor, we don't care where you try to hide this money. It's just the fact that you took it in the first place. And how can you say that you are against gas and oil drilling off the coast of North Carolina, and yet in the same stance, you want to run a fracked gas pipeline through eastern North Carolina? The communities in eastern North Carolina are just as important as the people on the coast. We're all North Carolinians, and I just wish the governor would see that. And like I said, I really appreciate y'all listening to me month after month, but it's something I just can't give up on.
Thank you for your conviction and your passion, Mr. Clark.
Our second speaker is Chief District Court Judge Robert Steele.
Good to see you, Judge.
Good to see all of you, Mr. Chairman, commission members, county staff. Like Tom, I want to begin by saying appreciate y'all listening to me month after month. I need to comment on young William. You couldn't see it, but I could from behind. He stood at perfect parade rest the entire time. It was incredible. Our figures from last month, just to give you an idea of what's been going on here at the courthouse. We had 61,002 citizens come through our doors. There were 17,276 cases, hearings that were scheduled during that 1 month alone. To give you a flavor of what's coming through the door and what's not, I want to thank our sheriff department. They seized 589 weapons, one of which was a gun and 2 tasers among all of them, most box cutters, knives, and stuff like that. and that's to their credit to providing us security. I want to share with you another thought, and that is the three things we all battle against most, and that is domestic violence, substance abuse, and mental illness. No doubt most of DSS's caseload, the 900 kids we read about in DSS custody, all three of those categories account for the bulk of what DSS and children and families are wrestling with. For the domestic violence front from us, it's important that you're aware we're about to implement down the road this year an e-filing for victims of domestic violence. There's a statewide pilot program. We've been selected as one of the pilots. It will allow for families, mothers not having to bring their kids to the courthouse to file lawsuits, 50B, domestic violence, civil protective orders off-site, and also to have a judge by Skype webcam consider the entry of emergency type orders. The advocacy sites that are on tap are ACS out at Fort Bragg, so imagine to our military community the convenience of not having to come downtown to file for a domestic violence protective order. Rape Crisis Volunteers of Cumberland County, and additionally 5 Sparrows, that is probably the premier human trafficking advocacy group. They now have a grant proposal before the Governor's Crime Commission to obtain a third site for us. Hopefully down the road, Hope Mills down in the south, out Cliffdale Road, will have sites for the convenience of victims of domestic violence, all for good reason, all without me having to comment why. The other thing I did want to comment to you is your Finance Committee heard from Major Tandra Adams last Thursday, I believe. Today, this morning, we had 785 folks in our jail, 698 men, 87 women. Tandra shared with you last week the magic number was at 776. 320 of those numbers are affected by mental illness. So as we work together to look forward to saving money, to doing what's right for homeless, mentally ill, look forward to talking with you in the future, or please call me if you have any questions. And we appreciate the ability to serve you and others. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our third and final speaker is Ms. Julie Morse.
Now hurry up, you know he's hungry.
I know. Hello, my name is Julie Morse. I live at 7045 Monarch Drive, Linden, North Carolina. And I would like to address you regarding a 2,600-acre ATV park that they're building and developing in Linden as of now, which I'm not sure how many of you have heard about that. It went up to they wanted to rezone some of the land, so it went to a public hearing. And the planning board, there was a lot of us that had concerns about this ATV park in our backyard. So the planning board offered the landowner to do a conditional zoning so he could address all our concerns. So it was deferred for 2 months, and then a week before the next hearing, they pulled their application for rezoning, and now it is an agritourism project. And I don't believe, and most people that I have spoke to do not believe that 2,600-acre ATV park is agritourism. And I went to I talked to the representative Zoka. I'm working with his assistant and the attorney there, which they don't know much about the agritourism also. And then I also, with the state, I talked to the zoning director here in Cumberland County. He said that it is a state issue, and I have to deal with it on a state level, get an attorney, fight the legislation because it's too big, agritourism. So I even talked to the person that markets agritourism through North Carolina. She said she's never heard of an ATV park qualifying as agritourism. And so that's why I'm addressing you is I want to find out how we get it not be agritourism, because I was told the landowner makes the choice to do agritourism and then the planning department okays it and they're exempt from zoning ordinances, permits. And so we have the people of the area, can't get our concerns answered, and we don't know what's going to happen. And it's in our backyard. It surrounds all our whole rural community.
Okay.
So I don't know, because we have no more public hearings to be addressed. And then also, March 1st, I was reading the General Assembly is is going to, it says the type of activities that constitute agritourism when conducted on a bona fide farm and other relevant matters relating to agritourism activities are going to be recommended, including legislative proposals at the General Assembly on March 1st. Because of incidences like this, that it's so vague, they're going to, make it more direct.
Mr. Lloyd, I did have a chance to speak to her briefly. Would you like to have a comment or make a comment about her concerns?
I talked to Ms. Morris. Rick can feel free to chime in. He spoke about it, but the legislation is vague. The way it reads, if it's done on a bona fide farm, it's rural in nature. Maybe there's a couple other. It meets the very vague standards that they lay out. And Mr. Moorfield stated even at the planning board meeting, there probably needs to be some case law on this because it's so vague, but I guess they are addressing it again. If he has a farm number and meets those very vague standards, which he does, he only came in because we asked him to come in. Then he realized before he did a conditional zoning, he didn't have to do it. He was going to do agritourism, so he withdrew the case. So we're out of it because zoning can't touch it with the way it reads now.
Okay.
Can I say something else? One more thing?
Briefly, let's time to wrap it up.
Okay.
Supper time.
I was told about, I have to deal with it on the state level. That's why I went to our representative. But I was reading on the case in Harnett County regarding a shooting range. And I guess it was Drake Landing, and they called that agritourism. And that lasted about 2 years. And it was the county commissioners of Harnett County that finally said that is not agritourism.
All right. We will be having a legislative breakfast here soon, and maybe that's something that we can get a little bit clearer understanding about, okay?
Okay.
And we will follow up with you, all right?
All right, thank you.
Yes.
It did happen in Harnett County, but it was the courts that made the decision.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
That was wrong.
We're to the agenda, Ms. Cannon. Any changes to the agenda?
No, sir, there are no changes this evening.
Could I have a motion for approval of the agenda?
I move that we approve the agenda as presented.
Okay. We have a second. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Unanimous.
Okay. Consent agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I would ask to pull from the consent agenda item 2L4. You
want that moved to discussion later, or move it?
I'll just kind of
off the calendar.
Well, I was going, after we can do that, and I'm actually going to do that after, but I was going to let the consent agenda be done. I was just pulling that from the consent agenda.
Okay. Any other items to be pulled from consent agenda? If not, do I have a motion to approve?
Move we approve the consent agenda with the deletion of 2L4.
Second. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Unanimous.
Okay. All right, Glenn, where are you?
Mr. Chairman, I would ask on 2L4, if you will look, it's 3 and 4. I did not pull 3 because that was our, you all went to the strategic planning, and that was one of the things that was a goal and to be discussed. But to then go to the approval of the 2018 county state legislative agenda, I was asking to pull just one item off of that, because I think it just still says consider, and that would be the very first one, considering the legislative action as to the flexibility with companies. I would ask that be moved back to the finance so we could actually discuss it, which is what the strategic goals talked about, was for that to be discussed. The other items to go before the legislative committee, I did not have a problem with. So I would move that, if I can, that all the other items except for that one be moved forward to the legislative agenda, and that one be put to the finance committee.
Second.
Okay. Any other discussion? Call for a motion?
Yeah.
Oh, you got the motion? You got the second? Any further discussion? Marshall, you're looking a little puzzled down there.
Why the Finance Committee?
Well, because I think at the end of the day, it's going to have some financial implications for, and that was kind of the one that I think should go to, because it's going to have some financial issues as to the county, and because once we do that, I think it may raise some of the bids or whatever. So I thought the Finance Committee was, I don't have, the other one was facilities and policy. It could go to policy, I guess, but after start, because it was going to deal with some finances, the Finance Committee was where it should go. That was the only reason.
Okay. Any other discussion? You heard the motion. We have a second. All those in favor?
Unanimous.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Ms. County Manager, we are at public hearings.
Yes, sir. And we have 3 uncontested rezoning cases. The first case, 3A, is case P17-55. Mr. Lloyd.
Yes, ma'am. This is rezoning of 41.3 acres from RR Rural Residential to MP Planned Industrial Conditional Zoning. It was originally submitted as just a regular rezoning. We asked the applicant to come back so we could see specifically what was going on the site. There was no opposition at the planning board meeting. It is for open storage, as it says, and there was no opposition, and I don't believe there's any opposition tonight. The planning board recommended unanimous for the rezoning.
Okay, we will open the public hearing. No speakers?
There are no speakers.
Okay. We will close the public hearing. Do we have any questions or discussion? Since this is non-contested, uncontested. Yeah, okay.
I have it.
You got it?
I've got it. All right, Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the rezoning from RR Rural Residential to MP Planned Industrial CZ Conditional Zoning for open storage of construction material and equipment along with the ancillary work activities, office space, storage buildings, and find that ABC, which are printed with the material.
Okay.
I move approval.
Okay.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Unanimous.
Okay. Mr. Lloyd?
Yes, sir. Case P1801 is rezoning of 1 acre from R40 to R40/CU conditional use overlay, which is what we used to call conditional zonings, for motor vehicle sales to just R40. The whole purpose of this request is to remove the old conditional use overlay, which only allowed for motor vehicle sales, so that they can go ahead and develop it residential, one housing unit.
Okay. We will open the public hearing. Madam Clerk, do we have any speakers?
There are no speakers.
We will close the public hearing. Any questions, discussion? If not, we'll call for a motion in a second.
Who's doing this?
You got it.
If not, I move approval. Oh.
I turned my light on, but you know.
Oh, gotcha.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the rezoning to remove the conditional use overlay for motor vehicle sales at the property owner's request, and find the Southwest Cumberland land use plan has been examined and does not address this particular situation. And further, find approval of the request as reasonable and in the public interest, because conditional use overlays were approved prior to 2005 in order to allow land uses that were not permitted in the current zoning district in exceptional situations, later deemed as improper use of zoning, and that the approved business is no longer in operation at this location.
Okay.
Second.
You got it? Got a motion? Second? All those in favor?
Unanimous.
It's unanimous. Mr. Lloyd?
Yes, sir. Case P1802 is a rezoning request of 1.65 acres from R6 Residential to C2P, located on MacArthur Road. It's right past Honeycutt. We're seeing some transition in this area due to the outer loop of 295. There was no opposition. The planning board recommended unanimous approval. From residential to C2P, there was no opposition at the planning board meeting, and I don't believe there's any tonight.
Okay. We will open the public hearing. Madam Clerk?
There are no speakers.
Okay, we will close the public hearing. Any questions or discussion? If not,
I
ask for a motion.
have some, I do have a couple of questions, because I wrote out there. And what I don't understand is, in the motion, this is an amendment to the adopted North Fayetteville Land Use Plan, but then it goes further and says the Board of Commissioners should not require any additional requests or application for amendment to said map. And I don't understand why we would handle.
I'm sorry.
I don't understand why the commissioners would handicap themselves if this is. It just, that didn't make sense to me. Can you explain that one to me?
Ms. Spiker just told me that follows what the state statute says. Correct.
Not to make any amendments to this plan. We're making an amendment tonight, and then you're telling me I'm gonna go here and say I'm not gonna make any other amendments.
Not to require the property owner to submit an additional application to amend the plan.
Okay, that's not what that says, but okay. As long as that's in that language,
yes,
because that's not what A says. Because the A just says, and that the Board of Commissioners should not require any additional requests or application. That seems to be anybody in terms of that land use to that map. That's what that says. So if we can put that in there, I don't know who's going to make this motion, but if we can put that in there, that's fine. Then I went to C, and I don't know who's going to make this motion. But this is a long way from 295. There is a lot of stuff between 295 and where this property is, and so to say that we're doing this because of a transition on 295, I mean, there's about 3-4 neighborhoods. There's Eureka Springs. This property's way down. This property's on the other side of Andrews Road up a little bit. So yes, I don't, and then if you go the other way, if you go down Andrews Road, you gotta go all the way down Andrews Road to Ramsey Street to get to 295. So I'm not comfortable with the last part to say we're doing this because of 295, because that's not even in the vicinity of this property.
And I think maybe we wrote that wrong. That we feel that 295 and this being an entrance corridor to 295 is where that enters into it, because it is out there, and there are people coming from that area where it's been a transition back down to 295.
The only thing past this property is Fort Bragg, just
right.
About. So I mean, it's not a gateway into 295. It's a long way. This thing is at least
right.
It's miles away from 295. So I mean, it just doesn't make sense that if we're going to do a motion that the justification is for the transition on 295. So,
Mr. Booth.
Mr. Booth.
Yeah. You can sit down.
So.
Would you accept a motion that detailed in case P18-02 to approve the rezoning from R6 residential to C2P planned service and retail, and find A all the way down to
just add
the last line says request or application for amendment to this request. So
to this application. Yeah,
to this application, yep. And then B as it's worded and drop C.
Right. And I don't know if they need C. That's the only reason I say that, because you got to find it reasonable in the public interest.
Yes,
so you got to have C. And I don't have a problem. It is transition from residential to non-residential right in that area, because that's all that's there.
Right.
But not through the redevelopment and construction. So I would stop it after non-residential, because I don't think that it meets anywhere near 295.
Okay.
Okay. Is that wording enough for?
Right.
Is it okay?
Stopping it, eliminating through redevelopment and construction.
Yes.
All right. And then in A, request or application for amendment to this.
For this
request. To this request in case P18-02. In other words, not from us, but from no more requests or amendments from the landowner, as you said. Would that be okay?
What the statute means is that for this particular application, this landowner doesn't have to make any more applications.
It just doesn't say that.
I understand the point. It's just the statute.
I think we've set enough on the record that we've covered on that.
Okay. Have a motion?
And so moved.
Okay.
Second.
Wait a minute.
Hold it. Yes.
Before we have the motion, let's have that read again to the corrections that was done so everybody clearly understand what it was.
Okay. In case
he's going to make the motion anyway.
Well, I know he was going to make the motion anyway, but still, there might be questions that have to be asked by me.
In case, I move in case P18-02 to approve the rezoning from R6 residential to C2P planned service and retail, and find A, the approval is an amendment to the adopted North Fayetteville Land Use Plan 2003 map, and that the Board of Commissioners should not require any additional request or application from this petitioner for this for this petition,
For amendment to said map.
this map.
Okay.
And B, the following change in condition was considered in amending the zoning ordinance, zoning map, to meet the development needs of the community. The requested district is consistent with the more recently adopted 2030 Growth Vision Plan 2009, which calls for urban development at this location. And C, and this rezoning approval is reasonable and in the public interest because the subject property is located in an area that is in transition from residential to non-residential through redevelopment.
No, just at residential.
And at residential.
Just in that resident, non-residential.
Okay.
Do I need to second it again?
Yeah, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Okay,
Excuse me, I have discussion on the motion, Mr. Chairman.
okay.
I just want to ask Commissioner Adams something. With regard to I-295, where are you talking about it being in regard to 295?
Well, it's way down MacArthur Road. It's way down MacArthur Road. Where 295 is on MacArthur Road, puts it at least miles away from this particular interest.
It's not that far.
Yeah, it is. Because you got to go past Eureka Springs, past Pedens, on down past where the farmland is by a couple other neighborhoods.
But I'm just thinking it's closer than 5 miles. I mean,
Well, maybe.
I understand you.
I don't know, miles
I just don't think it's far because I think, I can visualize everything between 295 and this property, and it's not that far, honestly. But anyway, I'm just raising that as a concern. But anyway,
Okay.
doesn't matter.
I rode out there today. That's why I know. I actually rode there, so that's why I know how far it was. But it's all good.
That's the way I go to Pedens.
Yeah.
Right.
Get good seafood.
We satisfied?
Yeah, I just, discussion
Okay.
on the motion, didn't ask me.
Okay. Apologize. We'll raise our hands again, please. All those in favor? Okay.
Unanimous.
Okay.
Could I ask a quick question? On that first motion, you changed the wording. It did follow the statutes, but would you like us to change that in the future on that motion?
Well, I think where you put it, you
make
gotta
it
say
clear.
to this applicant, so he doesn't
Right.
have to, whoever doesn't have to do any amendments, that's all.
Okay.
I mean, it just didn't read, I didn't know that's what that was, it just didn't read that way.
Okay. How about nominations?
Oh. This one for
Tourism Authority, yes.
I thought somebody else was getting
You
that.
want the nomination for the TDA, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, one vacancy.
It's a new contractor to be reappointed, eligible for reappointment.
Okay. Under appointments?
All right, for appointments, Mr. Chairman, I move that we appoint to the Alliance Behavioral Health Care Board Dwayne Holder and Glenn Adams.
Second.
Okay.
There's 7.
I think all of them have the same number of people, if you
Yeah.
wanted to do them all. together.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was going to call their names, but
okay.
anyway.
As feel good moment.
I move that we appoint the persons listed for the Firefighters Relief Fund Board and for the public's information. Every firefighter, every fire organization in the county has their own members of that board. To the Civic Center Board, to the Cumberland County Home and Community Care Block Grant, to Cumberland County Local Emergency Planning Committee, and to the Equalization and Review Board, which has 5 vacancies.
Okay.
That's my motion.
Okay. We have the motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Do you have any discussion? Yes, sir.
No, I was finna vote.
You getting ready to vote? We'll call for your vote. All those in favor?
Unanimous.
It's unanimous.
Mr. Chairman, I move we adjourn.
Okay.
I second
Oh,
that.
you got something to say, I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, we got our little, not
I'm
little,
sorry.
Come on up here. We're going to give you 6 more hours of college credit,
He'll graduate.
wherever you want to, son.
Yes, sir. And then come around, shake it.
Okay, like Charlie did, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like Charlie did. Like Charlie
Well, you
did.
folks, okay.
You don't have to get on that little spoon.
Yeah, look at here. Yes, sir.
Good work, sir. Good work.
That's fantastic. You're already almost a junior.
All right, we have a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay. He's going to say a few words.
Oh.
No, this is tomorrow. You going to talk to us? Okay.
Look at that. Picture first. All right.
Oh, okay.
Are you glad to glad? There you go. Look, you know what we doing now. That's exactly right. Look right there in that camera right there. Here we go. Okay. All right, now. Oh, mess with my picture.
Yeah.
Kind of tall.
You got it.
It is.
There we go. I think you had to put him, you had to put Glenn sitting there with Kelly.
All right, son, you got 1 minute.
No, Kelly's making a mess.
So I thoroughly enjoyed the meeting, especially the way you guys leave stuff open to discussion and to public hearing. I found that very, I found it to be very, like, to enhance the flow of the meeting, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming.
Good luck, my friend.
Thank you.
By the way, you said you were going to Morehouse and or Chapel Hill. Okay. Congratulations, my friend. We had a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
All those, you heard the motion, a second. Okay, raise your hand, Marshall. We are adjourned. Thank you.